So for today, I want you to know the difference between crafts and fine art. What are the main differences? Why do some people believe that a certain object, such as my mug, is a piece of fine art, while others believe that it's a piece of craft? Today, there is a different way of looking at craft and at fine art. The concept of craft versus fine art blurred, and it became very different from previous generations. So let's see first of all the main differences. Craft. Craft is usually something that has some kind of function. You deal with different kinds of metals, wood, fibers, and they don't necessarily preoccupy with giving meaning or interpretation of intention. However, what happens if you create a basket, a mug, with meaning and intention that goes beyond satisfying the practical need that your client is looking for to fulfill? What happens if you imbue a certain basket with meaning, with a different intention? Then maybe the same object that was considered craft will now be considered fine art. At the same time, you have to think about something that happens with art. Sometimes you can make art via a formula. If you follow that formula over and over and over, and you're making what sells well, what the market is valuing, even if you call yourself an artist, you might actually be a craftsperson. It is not because you're using canvas and paint. If you keep following the same formula over and over and over, and you don't seek new meaning, and you don't look for intention and inspiration. You see what I mean? There are many artists out there who should be called craftspeople. And there are many craftspeople out there who should be called artists. We have to go back into history to really understand how complicated this subject is. Because throughout history, certain communities adopted certain materials to express themselves. And they express themselves via means that are treated by others as craft. But if you look very closely, you will see that people are talking about their ancestors, the battles they fought, the issues they're going through in life, while embroidering, while making masks. So sometimes somebody who's a Westerner, you're going to look at basket weaving from Native Americans, from people of Africa or Asia, and you're going to treat it not as fine art. But that is because you have a bias. That is because you have not necessarily a prejudice, but just not a deeper understanding of the levels, many layers that those objects can have within their original culture. If you come from a place where cups can represent vessels, where you can express your angst, your happiness, your wishes, your desires, and you can add elements, motifs that will show a depth of feelings and understanding to be different and unique, for sure that mug will not be considered craft, but art, the greatest form of art. So art and craft can change depending on how you approach it at the time when you're making it. Art, it's something made to speak about an aspect that is very much about the human experience. If you use it to express a kind of feeling or any aspect of the human experience, that should be considered art. However, if you are making something that looks like art, but it's deprived of feeling, it's deprived of any meaning that deals with the human experience, maybe what you're looking at is not art, but a piece of craft. It's very controversial what I'm saying right now, but somebody has to say it. There are a lot of artists out there who don't change their formulas, and it's very doubtful that they are still painting or creating or making art at all from inspiration. Perhaps they are no longer artists. Art is usually something made from an emotional perspective, and it always keeps on evolving. But keep in mind, if art becomes formulaic, then it maybe is no longer art. Ask yourself, how can you make the finest of fine arts using everyday objects, using techniques that before were treated as craft? I'm sure you're going to do incredibly well.